The webinar that you're reviewing today is going to be reviewing the features that are coming out in the 2016 release. Hopefully you've already gotten the disk-based released in the email, or sorry, your disk-based released in the mail. These features that you're going to be seeing today are on that last disk, version 2016. The agenda for today is I'm going to be reviewing the new features available in Office 2016, and that'll cover the space planning and managing of projects, as well as specifying and organizing projects. And at the end, we're going to cover a little bit of training in 2020 community and remind you that we're going to be at NeoCon again this year. Okay, so space planning and managing projects. You do a lot with CAP and Giza, but we've added some new features that make it a little bit easier for you to do that work. So the bubbles you just see on your screen right now are telling you that we are supporting AutoCAD 2017, which brings us into the newest version of AutoCAD. It allows you to use the more powerful features that AutoCAD 2017 has. And if you haven't gotten 2016 yet, if you haven't gotten AutoCAD 2017 yet, when you do, you'll see that there's a really neat feature in it I'd like to call attention to specifically, and that's importing PDFs. If you have a proper PDF that was made a specific way, you can import that into AutoCAD and it'll come over as all the proper geometry. It's a very, very slick feature. The next bubble down is building floor department person. Those Giza users listening in today, they will already know about these fields and information that you can stick on graphics within the drawing, but these 4 fields are new to CAP users. These are similar to the way that alias values work, and we hope that with these more specific fields, it will help you do your job a little bit easier, be more efficient. And the last one you see on the screen here is 2020 Giza import enhancements. We've made some changes to the way the import works, make it a little bit more smoother for you, make it catch some things, and fix them for you if possible. And when it can't fix them for you, it'll tell you what's wrong so that you might communicate that back to the person that gave you the drawing. Okay, we're going to jump into building floor department person. Okay, so everyone should see on their screen an AutoCAD drawing. This is I would say this is probably about an average size drawing. It might be a little bigger than what you usually work with or a little bit smaller, but it's about average. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the building floor department and person feature here inside of CAP Studio 2016. So in the same alias assign dialog, you're not going to have these extra fields, building floor department and person. So the reason that we put these in is not because alias 1, 2, and 3 weren't enough, but building floor department and person make things a little bit easier. It makes them more clear when you go from the drawing over to the worksheet. These values are going to be used the same way the alias values were used. They can be assigned onto the item in the drawing. You can decide to show them on the graphic or not show them on the graphic. And these fields are used to break up the space, to separate items out so that when it gets over to the worksheet, it's easier to handle. And even within AutoCAD, there are different ways that you can separate things out. You can do color blocks, but the easiest and probably the best way, I think, is to use some kind of a tag. So we're going to be using the building floor department and person tags here in this demo today. So first thing I'm going to use is I'm going to use the department one. And we're going to assign the software dev department tag, and I'm going to turn it on so we can see what happens. I'm going to select these objects. I can set them on a specific layer, so I'm going to put them on. I'm going to put them on a CAP standard tag layer. I'm going to assign that. Now, if I zoom in on these items, you can see that each one of these standards, because these are all standards in here, they all now have this software dev bit of text above their tag. Here are some regular items that are not standards, and you see that it says software dev right above its tag as well. We're going to get even a little bit more specific, and I'm going to apply a person value to some of my stations. Since they're standards, it makes it really easy to select the items. But we're going to go ahead and stick with standard. You now see that the name Eric appears above the department bit of text there. This happens to be where I sit as well, and where I'm residing for this webinar. Each of these pieces of text are attributes, and they can be moved around separate. So if your drawing is very complex, or if it's not quite in the right spot, click on the text and just move the grip to move it around. So I'm going to quickly apply some more department values. And even though as I'm assigning these values, I'm setting them to be on, that's not a necessary thing. And in some cases, you may not even want to have it on, so I'm just going to leave it off in this instance. So the graphics don't get heavy with text. I've assigned that value, and just make sure that everything's stuck. You can do that using cap info. You'll see that on the standard, inside sales has been applied as a department. So as I mentioned before, building floor, department, person, those are the 4 fields that you now have available in addition to the alias fields when it comes to assigning tags to items in your drawing. For very large drawings, you might use building. Floor is also a large project tag. Department and person are probably going to be the ones that you most likely use. But when it comes to these tags, while they have a lot of value within the drawing, like if I were to move this station from one space to another, I could do a cap info on it or turn the tag on, and I might be able to see if it is in the wrong area, so that I might be able to change the tag. But the value of these really comes when you do a worksheet takeoff. So I'm going to quickly save my drawing and do a takeoff. So technically, what you're going to see right now is not part of the new feature for building floor, department, person, but it shows you the payoff of building floor, department, person. So now that we're inside of worksheet, you'd be able to go through and sort by these departments and people that you set inside the drawing, and you don't have to set it up inside of worksheet. And if you do associated worksheets, the connection is back and forth, so any change you make inside of worksheet will be pushed back and forth into the drawing. Right. The next thing I want to show you is 2020 Giza import enhancements. You should see Giza up on your screen right now. Now, the ability to import AutoCAD drawing files into Giza has existed for a long time. But what a lot of Giza users experience is that they get drawings from architects or engineers or other creative types, and those drawings have some kind of issue. It's not necessarily that the drawing is bad or that it's done wrong. It just has things set inside of it that AutoCAD knows how to deal with, but Giza does not. So messages will have appeared in the past that may be a little vague, and you're not quite sure what exactly is going on with it, and it leads to a lot of frustration. We've made some changes to our import function that you're going to see right now. So I'm going to import an AutoCAD DWG, which is the most common file that Giza users will be importing. This is the standard load options dialog. Everything in here is the same as it was before. I just like to check the checkbox for place origin in the lower left corner. I also like to leave blocks set to symbols. That'll just convert any cap blocks that are in the drawing over to Giza symbols. I'm going to click load. And what you see on the screen right now is the new thing that we've added. So this is the graphic representation of the changes that we've made. It goes through and it checks for certain things and it gives you feedback. It'll check to see if the drawing contains corruption. And 9 times out of 10, if a drawing contains corruption, it means that it can't be imported because there's something wrong with the drawing. That's a specific thing that's wrong. And the person on the other end will have to fix it inside of AutoCAD. The next thing down is our XREFs detected. And this particular one had XREFs detected. This is another common thing that Giza users will experience when they get a drawing from an architect. Frozen layers detected, it found those and it resolved them. Locked layers detected, it found those and resolved them. Unsupported objects found, it found those and it detected them. And what happens with unsupported objects is if they get removed from the drawing, they don't appear inside of Giza because they're objects that aren't supported. Items that may not be set to by layer have been detected. This usually isn't a big deal, but if you are a Giza user that has your display set to show color and you're working with the person that supplied you the drawing, if items are set to by layer, if items are not set to by layer on the drawing, they're not actually going to appear the color that is associated with the layer. So in Giza, we push it back to the proper color. On the other end, the person you're working with might not have the exact same look and feel of the drawing. Unsupported line types, those have been resolved. Non-supported textiles, didn't find any of those. Non-supported dimension styles, those were detected. So I'm going to quickly go back through these things here again. XREFs were detected. And what that means is that there's a file that is an external file to the drawing file that you imported. And sometimes that makes a difference, sometimes that doesn't. I happen to have a PDF of the drawing that I can bring up on my screen here. So what you see here is this PDF is of the full drawing that the creator of the original DWG would have sent me. And now I can see by comparing the imported result inside of Giza with PDF that it looks like the XREF is the outside pieces, the trees and the patios and the sidewalks, those exterior finishes. So in our particular case, it doesn't look like the XREF is that important. So we can go ahead and we can move beyond that. Frozen layers detected and locked layers detected. What happens is the locked layers and the frozen layers are treated in much the same way they would be in AutoCAD, but they're changed over to be either background or off layers inside of Giza. Off if they're frozen, background if they're locked, which means you can't touch them, but you can see them. Unsupported objects found, like I mentioned before, those things have been stripped during the import. Items to the by layer, I already explained that a little bit. Unsupported line types, that was resolved. What that means is that line types that Giza doesn't understand have been converted into the closest thing that Giza has. Most files you're going to work with are going to have pretty standard line types. Things like zigzag lines that you might have in AutoCAD, gas lines, just user-created lines, those things Giza doesn't understand, so we'll switch them over to the continuous line type when it imports it if it can't switch it over to something that's close to what it thinks it ought to be. And unsupported dimension styles, it detected those. So let me OK this message here. Oh, before I OK it, you can save the log for this, and it just saves the exact same information you see on your screen right here. So if you have something that you're concerned about when you do the import, you can save the log away and have it handy if you call into tech support, and you can explain to them what the problems were. and they can walk you through what you might need to do to fix those mistakes. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to zoom in on some items here. So it looks, the font, the text, the dimension style that you see in Giza, these are what it's converted to. They're very standard, very plain looking, but functional dimensions and text styles. So if there's something that was really a quirky kind of font that the provider of the drawing might have been using, that isn't necessarily going to be able to be seen inside of Giza. All right. Moving on. All right, so we've covered the first part of our webinar. Now we're going to talk about quickly specifying and organizing projects. So there's 3 features here. I think you're going to get pretty excited about some of them. The first one we're going to cover is going to be the color column inside of Worksheet. It's a new column that we've added that you can set as a user, set a color for that cell of the row, the ability to save sorts, and some DMO enhancements. So I'm going to go back to Worksheet. I'm going to open the file that I'm going to use for color column. Okay, so pretend with me for a minute that you're working on a large project, and this worksheet represents that project, and you have multiple floors of furniture that you need to install. Your installation schedule is pretty tight, and you need to communicate easily and thoroughly with the installer to make sure the project deadlines are met. Each floor is going to be installed as a phase, floor 1 being phase 1, floor 2 being phase 2. And each department has to pay for their own part of the project separately. And finally, all of the seating needs to be identified so that we can store that off-site until the furniture has been installed, so that we can bring the seating items in to train the people that are going to be sitting in them how to use them properly. So we have a couple of different things we're going to break this down. We're going to break down by color the departments, and then we're going to break it down by floor, and we're going to also separate out the chairs. Okay, the first part we're going to do is sort by department. And you'll see we have 4 departments in here. We have customer service, inside sales, marketing, and outside sales. So there's a few different ways that you can assign the colors to these items. And the cell that we mentioned, the column right here is the color column. By default, it will be in the worksheet on the far left-hand side. And I'm going to start by assigning some colors. The first way we're going to do it is by criteria. This is most likely the way that you're going to be applying these values. I want to find all the items where the department equals customer service. And we're going to set that to be yellow. So all of our customer service items now have that color column set to be yellow. The next department we're going to work with is inside sales. And to do that, I'm going to go about it a different way. I'm going to highlight all of the rows that are inside sales. And I'm going to apply them through the same item menu, color, set color, and I'm going to set this to blue. So now you see that I've just set the color of those items to blue using a slightly different method than I did before. The next one is marketing. I'm going to highlight all the marketing items again. And this time I'm going to go to Edit, Assign, and I can assign a color to the selected items. The checkbox to selected items comes on when the worksheet knows the items have been selected. I'm going to check the color, And what value am I going to apply? I'm going to set marketing to purple. So now we have 3 of the departments set. The last one is outside sales. The last method that you can use to apply color is to actually click directly in the cell for color. And I'm going to set outside sales to be this light blue. So I can keep doing this one at a time. I'm going to speed through a little bit faster this time. We're going to use the criteria again. There we go. So now we have the departments separated out within the, looks like when I was selecting items, I missed a couple here. So I'm going to use that function where I can click and apply them manually. So there I've made the change. The departments are all separated out by color now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another sort. This time I'm going to put a subtotal in so that we can see how much each department will cost. So now what you would do with this worksheet is you would print it out in color so that you could give it to the department heads and they would know how much each one of their departments is going to cost when it comes with their furniture and their space. For the next thing, I need to clear all the colors. So to do that, we go to the item menu again and just color, clear all colors. That wipes everything out. So for this scenario of our project, I need to break things out by floor, and then I need to break out again. I need to separate the chairs, seating items. So we're going to sort by floor. Put all of the first floor items together. I'm going to set color on these. I'm going to set that one to be red. Second floor. We're going to make them team blue. So now the floors are separated. We have one red, one blue. Those are pretty easy to see. But we need to separate out the seating items. So rather than me hunting and pecking and trying to find all of the seating items, I'm going to actually select them by criteria. So all the items that have the category of seating are going to be selected now. So I have all the seating items selected. And now I need to assign a note to these to say that we're going to store them in the warehouse until the project is done. Alias 1 is where I'm going to want to store that. So I'm going to assign alias 1. We're going to store them in the warehouse. And while we're at it, we're also going to assign a color for these. Set them to green. It's only going to apply to the selected items. And now you see that there is a note for these seating items and their color is changed to green. I could print this out and it clearly shows which items are on which floor, and the seating items are also called out separately, telling them that those need to be moved over to the warehouse. The next feature that I'm going to cover here is Save Sort. So I need to get back into Worksheet again. I'm going to open up my Save Sort worksheet. And you see right away that there are a lot of items in this worksheet. Worksheets that are really big, they get very hard to work with. They're very bulky. They're just not a pleasant thing to work with when there's that many items that are in them. And sorting is what you do to try to make it a little bit easier. So the way that you can sort currently, or previously, is just to click on the column headings, or you could use multiple column sort. So that's not hard necessarily, But it is kind of a tedious thing when you have to do many different sorts throughout the day. And if someone comes up to you and they need information from this worksheet, you need to sort it one way for them and then print it or send it. And then you need to sort it back to the way that you were working with before so that you can get on with the project the way that you were working with the project before. The ability to save sorts is represented here in this Sort Settings drop-down menu. So if I hit this, it brings up Manage Sort Settings, and right now it says None. So I'm going to actually save a sort. The most common way that you likely will do that will be from the multiple column sort, something that you know and use already. So right now, this worksheet is done and sorted by category first, floor, and department with subtotals. I want to save this sort. I can give it a name, and the file is going to be saved into the sorts folder, which is created the first time that you create or save a sort. It's created within the cap folder at the same level as projects and exports. I need to make sure that I save the sort in a meaningful way, though, because we're going to be having a lot of these saved sorts, and unless we name them clearly, they're going to get a little out of hand. So I name it category floor department, very clear. So that's saved away. Hit OK. Now that sort is listed up here in the Sort Settings drop list. So I'm going to sort the worksheet differently now to get rid of that sort that I had just saved. Now if I go to the Sort Settings drop list and click on that saved one, it puts it back to the way that it was before. This Sort Settings drop list also gives you Manage Sort Settings. So I can create a new sort within here. I can edit an existing one. I can rename one. I can delete them. And if I choose to go through this method to apply them, I can find which one I want. I can apply it from in here as well. So I'm going to create a new one this time, and we're going to call this, we're going to sort primarily by category. Let's change it up a little bit. We're going to sort by department, and then by category. So department category. Move that to the top. Secondary by category. Put some subtotals in. So now there's this department category. I'm going to apply it. You'll see that it sorted it by department and then category. And if I want to flip back to the earlier method of sorting, I can do it that way. So I said that we could create new ones. We can also edit them in here. So department category, that's the one that I want to edit. And I don't want to sort by department anymore. I want to sort by floor. So floor and then category, hit OK. And now that I've made that change, I need to rename this one so that it's proper. I'm not going to get confused with it later. So there we go. That is the save sort. I think that this is a feature that people are really going to get on board with quickly. It saves a lot of time and effort in simply working on the files that I needed for this webinar. I found myself using save sort a lot. So the features kind of build on each other. The ability to save the building, floor, department, person values into your drawing and on the items, that coming over into worksheet and then being able to sort by those, and throwing the color column into the mix. You can sort things in a particular way within your worksheet, and then you can assign the color values by the criteria. You can assign colors by criteria based on building, floor, department, and person. That is probably the most likely way that you're going to be using the color column. So the features build on themselves. The idea of this release was to help with workflow. So we've added some features that help you work through your projects more efficiently, save you time and effort, and hopefully just make your work life a little bit easier. The last thing that I'm going to talk about here is DMO enhancements. Now, I don't know how many people use DMO, but DMO is a placeholder catalog that we publish with the software so that people that use the software, they have some content that they can work with. But it's also there on the monthly discs. It gets updated from time to time, and this is one of the times that we've updated it. Now, DMO is it's not a real manufacturer, so if you need to put some items into your drawing that you either can't find in a regular manufacturer or you don't want to have to worry about removing them later because you really didn't want to order them, you can easily put a DMO item in, and it will appear within your drawing and be a good representation of what you want that space to be, even if it's not specific to a particular manufacturer. So these give you updated items. They're a little bit more modern. They go with a more modern furniture that regular manufacturers are now shipping and selling. We think that you'll get some use out of these things. There's just a wide variety of items. We tried to focus on some reception and lounge type furniture this time around. DMO was a little light in that area. So we hope that you appreciate the types of furniture that we've included in this update. I'm just going to show a few more of them. So you'll see that DMO can be used to put some placeholders into your drawing that are not manufacturer specific. You're not going to show any favoritism to another manufacturer. If you're, say, doing a space plan with Steelcase, but you need a chair that looks like it's a Knoll chair, you might find something that looks like a Knoll chair here, or the other kind of visual look that is common to another manufacturer.
Thank you for joining us.